This is a Film Stories original podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Xcast. The truth is in here. I'm Tony Black, your host, and this is our Season 10 coverage, our final look at Mulder and Scully Meet the Weir Monster. And I'm joined again for this last little look at the episode by Andrew Brooker.
Hello.
Hello. Sticking around for this one, and you'll be back for the next couple as well, won't you? Talking about Home Again and Babylon.
I will be. I'm very excited to talk about Home Again. I'm very excited to see Home Again. I can't wait.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to both of them now. Have you seen the synopsis for Home Again? In fact, Home Again probably will have aired by the time this is released, and we will be getting to Home Again soon. So you will have seen it probably by this point. But have you seen the synopsis for Home Again?
I haven't. I've done very well, I think, and I think a big part of it is because it's not airing in the UK yet. So I've done very well in avoiding most things X-Files. I mean, I knew the Weir Monster was coming because it's been probably the most highly advertised one outside of the mythology episodes.
Yeah.
Because it has been advertised as, the Darren Morgan episode. But no, I haven't gone anywhere near the synopsis for Home Again. I did briefly find myself on its wiki page and I went, nope, don't want to know. Don't want to know.
Switch off. Because
I'm desperately hoping that it is what I want it to be. And if it turns out that it's not, I don't want to know that before.
Well, we'll move swiftly on from that then. But it is out there if you're interested in finding out anything about Home Again. But we'll be getting to that very, very soon. So we're going to focus today on the character of Guy Mann, a.k.a. the Weir Monster himself, played by Rhys Darby, who is known for Flight of the Conchords and What We Do in the Shadows, which is a wonderful film, which is along similar lines in many respects to this. It's very much a supernatural spoof parody, and I loved that film. Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
I haven't. I had no idea who was in it. It's one of those ones that I missed when it came out in the cinema, and I haven't gotten around to watching it. I'm almost certain it's on Netflix.
I think it is now, yeah. It's well worth a watch because it's like a supernatural version of a Christopher Guest film. if you can imagine such a thing.
Yeah. Look, I've only ever seen him in one thing, which was the not very well received and very quickly cancelled sitcom How to Be a Gentleman.
Oh, I've not seen that.
It's about a guy who writes a column for a magazine called How to Be a Gentleman, and it's him and his sister, played by, I can never remember her name, but she plays Chloe in 24.
Oh, Marilyn
Rorschach or whatever.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it either.
And apparently, she's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah,
I've not found any of her stuff yet, but I will go looking at some point because I quite like the idea that she's a comedian, and that's the only funny thing I've seen her in.
Yeah.
And it's him actually as her immigrant husband.
Right. Okay.
And it's okay. It could have been better. It's got Kevin Dillon, the one that was in Entourage. And I am very aware that I'm one of maybe 9 Entourage fans in the UK. It's okay.
I think you're probably nine Entourage fans in the world after the movie last year.
Well, this is true. Although I'd still I admit to enjoying the movie as well. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I've seen him in. And when he turned up in the episode, apparently he looks like what he does in the episode in most things.
Right.
But he doesn't look like that in How to Be a Gentleman. It wasn't until he talked, I went, oh, I had to pause the episode. I had to go and double check who he was.
Yeah.
So this is the second thing I've ever seen him in.
Well, I definitely check out What We Do in the Shadows because he basically plays a really sort of aggravated werewolf in that. He's part of a werewolf gang who are basically just really pissed off all the time, and they're actually getting their own spin-off film, from what I've heard. Okay. Yeah, so he's gonna probably take a prominent role in that, and hopefully because he deserves to. And I thought that he was brilliant in this. He managed to nail everything that, and funnily enough, there's an interview with him on the Xcast Facebook, so do look this up, guys, in which he talks about how Darren Morgan's script was very specific in the wording and everything. In fact, it reminded me of how reading about, and this is a random reference, but reading about the writing of David Renwick, who did One Foot in the Grave in the UK and Jonathan Creek, which American listeners may have seen. And he's a great comic writer, but he's very, very specific about what he what's on the page, and if people tweak a word or tweak a line, he gets very angry because he's written it in a very specific comic style for delivery.
Yeah.
And Darren Morgan apparently does very much the same, because obviously he directed this episode as well. And Rhys Darby is quite often used to improvisation in his comedy. So he said it was a bit difficult to actually at times stick to Darren Morgan's very rigorous, this is how it sounds, this is how it needs to be played. But he says once he picked that up, he ran with it.
Yeah, I think for sitcoms, you're okay with ad hocing stuff for sitcoms, but for shows like this, it does need to be delivered as intended, doesn't it? You can't really go off script with it, otherwise your comedy doesn't work.
Well, this is it, and I think it was very precise, and I think it works for that, because I think he manages to portray this character with both that kind of bewildered sadness, as we talked about, but also just wonderful sort of madcap, farcical comic timing. And, you know, I have to say, the idea of a monster being bitten by a man and turning into a man is absolute genius. How has this never been done before?
It's brilliant, doesn't it? It somehow turns everything we know about monsters up on its head, you know, in one scene. I love it. And the fact that this guy, you know, he's normally a monster, and when he turns, he's a human. Well, wait, what?
It's such an amazing inversion of an idea that's been around for decades. And, you know, I mean, the whole, you know, there's very much a kind of B-movie Creature of the Black Lagoon vibe to a lot of this, in just a man running around in a rubber suit, you know, with silly, you know, making silly, scaring people. So there's that whole thing. And you think, okay, fair enough, that's funny in itself. But then the idea that he's not actually a monster at all, that he's just this reptilian life form who's just happily chilling in his forest, and then suddenly he gets bitten.
Having a nap in the moonlight.
Yeah, basically just having a nice little nap, and then suddenly he gets bitten, and he has to go through this horrible transformation. It's not only funny, but it's also quite telling of the idea of humanity, in a way, of this whole idea that when he becomes a man, he becomes more of a monster, ironically, doesn't he? Or in this case, has the most banal existence you can possibly imagine, like working in a phone shop.
Yeah. Oh, but hasn't he got some spectacular lines?
He does.
Just, please kill me, I don't want to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Don't we all feel like that every Sunday?
Yeah. And he says, you know, I've suddenly find as a man, I have this real urge to just have sex with things all the time, you know. And I just found myself on my bed just watching porn. It's just brilliant.
I love the idea of someone being affected so badly that they feel the need to get a job and get a mortgage. I don't know what a mortgage is, but I know I need one.
Yeah. I don't even know what these things are. It's wonderful. It's
such a madcap character.
Yeah, he is. You know, when you see him desperately trying to, you know, to turn himself back, and then when he's in the phone shop and he's like, "Oh, do this," and he just trashes it, and then he starts going, "Yeah, but I actually need a job," so he starts picking the phone up, putting it all back together.
It's just this beautiful moment, though, isn't it? Again, it's a moment we've all had, just losing our shit at work, and then going, "Oh fuck, I best clean this up because don't want to get in trouble." Shit.
Exactly. It just underscores this idea that if a monster was to become a man, he would have a far more boring existence than the other way around. It's just brilliantly done for comic effect. So when he does have that, when Mulder's asking him about, you know, when he was spoken to by Scully, and he tells him the fantasy version of how she sultry comes in and tries to seduce him, and then Mulder's like, "That did not happen." And he's like, "Oh, all right then." He tells you the truth.
It's so good. I think Gillian Anderson in that scene is just spectacular. She's so funny.
She goes for it properly, doesn't she?
I think there's something wrong with my phone because no one's sending me pictures of their junk. What? This is not a line, like, ever, anywhere. No one has ever said that.
It's the whole sort of really bad sort of fantasy version of what he thinks that a woman would say, because it's also partly the idea that, you know, because he doesn't really know what's going on he doesn't really understand what it's like to be human.
His only frame of reference is the porn he was watching.
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant. Yeah, he just frames it in the style of that. It's so clever. It's just you can unpick loads of different things, but he ultimately turns out to be basically just a nice creature who does not trying to do any harm to anybody. And of course, the real enemy, the real villain, if you want to call him that, is Kumail Nanjiani's
the animal control guy.
Animal control guy who ends up just biting the necks of people and wants to be known as a great serial killer, and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, whatever.
See that's on the other side of it as well. It's the same as the monster idea being flipped on his head, so the monster becomes the man. The man that's actually the monster doesn't become a monster at all.
Yeah,
he's already a monster being a man.
Yeah, and everyone's like not interested. You know, that's great just to sort of throw it away and write him off.
Quite literally, couldn't care less. Seen one, seen them all.
Exactly. You're not giving him the time of day to have his epic speech. It's great. It's like a real sort of, well, you know, if you're going to do that, we're not going to give you the time of day. And it's really cool. Interestingly enough, most people would know who he is, Kumail Nanjiani. He's the host of the X-Files podcast, which is the biggest X-Files podcast in the world.
Your competition.
My competition. We'll catch him up one day. And he obviously has been a massive fan of the show. Also an actor in Silicon Valley in the US, but he was such a massive fan of the show and did this podcast that he ended up getting him a role in the episode. So that's fandom taken to the extreme, basically. So well done to him for that, because it's a nice little extra thing for people who keep an eye on how the show works and stuff. But I just think that Guy Mann is going to go down as one of those classic Darren Morgan creations, in somebody who manages to be completely not what you expect him to be, which is what you often get in these these episodes.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we mentioned about his previous episode with Clive Bruckman, you know, he'll be the character. The character will live on long after we've forgotten what the episode is.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not you and me, but you know, non-real fans will just look and go, I don't remember the episode, but I do remember that, you know, weird Australian monster dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think they will. They watch this. Things will stick out to them, you know, lines he says, or, you know, just the way he is. It
made little skip when he fucks off at the end.
Yeah.
No. Just amazing. I don't know why or who came up with the idea for that, but it may be my favourite scene in the whole episode, just him skipping off Wizard of Oz style into the bushes.
Into the bushes. It was a really sweet little moment where he says it was nice to meet you, and then Mulder's just like, likewise. And that, you know, it's lovely. It's just like, oh, why can't it always be like that? You know, because he's just a nice guy, really. He just ends up in this horrible situation that he didn't bring on. He just, you know, he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
For the entirety of the episode as well. Like, everywhere he turns, the poor bastard.
Yeah, he's a great creation. He's a great, and it would, I very much doubt he'll be in it again. Although Rhys Darby did say in that interview he'd love to come back and do it again. Can't see that happening, but I think in a way I don't want it to, because I think this is a perfect little episode. I definitely want Darren Morgan to do another one if they do another series. And to be fair, one thing we haven't talked about is how well this has done in the ratings, not just in the US but globally. It reached, the first 2 episodes anyway, reached 50 million across the globe through various different showings and things like that.
Jesus.
Which is fantastic. You know,
they're phenomenal numbers.
That's brilliant numbers, you know, and it's bought itself another series, I think, without question already. Even though the numbers dipped a little bit for this one, for Mulder and Scully Meet the Weir Monster, but not much. You know, it's still performing really well.
It's interesting. I mean, because we haven't got it over here yet, have we? So we get it Monday, I think.
Yeah, we get it the 8th of February is my struggle. But I think whether it'll do very well in the UK, I don't know, because it's not on a particularly well-watched channel.
No, we've had this conversation before, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's on Channel 5. No one watches Channel 5.
No one really watches Channel 5. And the only thing that's going for it is that and I said this on the one with Tanya, one of the ones with Tanya, it's been phenomenally marketed, this series. I mean, all across the globe. They've spent so much money to actually put it in the public consciousness again. It's been a really, really well-promoted miniseries.
They crashed a UFO into LA, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Premiere. I mean, Jesus Christ. And the X-Files Twitter account's gone absolutely mental.
Yeah.
I had to stop following it because I have to wait till the next morning before they arrive on iTunes, and I don't want to go through my Twitter feed and get anything spoiled.
It's just relentless. Yeah.
Yeah. every TV show, whether we get it the day after or a week after, some bastard will always put spoilers up. So I've had to kind of limit where I look.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the marketing for this has been absolutely phenomenal. And it's a shame Channel 5 have picked it up. I mean, Channel 5 didn't do that well with Gotham last year, and considering what Gotham is, it should have been a much, much bigger deal.
This is the thing. Time will tell. I don't think it will particularly do great over here, not because it's not good, but
I think the thing it will be interesting to see the numbers after the season's finished. Because I think what you'll get a lot of in this country is people downloading it to their Skyboxes with 5 on demand.
Yeah, I agree.
DVR numbers will definitely be the telling one, I think, for the UK.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but I do hope it keeps doing well, because I'd certainly like to see more. I don't think we need 24 episodes, though.
No, Tanya said that she'd like 10, and I think that'd be a good number. I agree with her.
Yeah, 10 to 12 HBO length seasons, I think, would be much better.
Yeah, that's often the standard for a lot of shows now. Anyway, for ones that look good and are able to have a fair bit of money in them, and
yeah, it's definitely my preferred number. Because I mean, anywhere from like 8 to 12 tends to be much better. I mean, as much as we all say we'd like to see more, 24 episodes a year of Game of Thrones, we'd all be exhausted.
Oh yeah, it would be too many.
Couldn't keep up the quality.
No, exactly, and it wouldn't look as good, And I think, but with 10 episodes, you could have enough mythology and standalones and a bit of comedy for everyone to be happy. Really, it's just convincing Gillian Anderson is the big one, because the rest of them, I think,
X-Files isn't the procedural it used to be. It can't be the procedural it used to be. So 24 is far too many.
It's got to evolve a bit, which it is doing. We'll have to wait and see. We've got a little bit of feedback, finally, about this episode from X-Files 2015 at 100,000 for XF3, which I think is an X-Files fan, definitely on Twitter, with a handle like that. They said, I thought it was hilariously entertaining. Plenty of Easter eggs for long-time files, but amazing for drawing new files in too. Now, that's interesting, because definitely right about the Easter eggs, but would new fans be really hooked in by this episode?
I think possibly. I don't know. Paul's reaction says no.
Well, yeah.
I think if people stuck with it on the knowing how well, if they enjoyed episodes 1 and 2, knowing that even if it was going to be the Duff episode, I think if they got to the end of it, they'd probably enjoy it. I don't think there's enough to get non-X-File fans laughing. Certainly not as much as you and me probably did. The comedy's definitely still there, and there's definitely some beautiful comedy writing in general, not just in X-Files lore, land, whatever you'd like to call it. There's definitely some great comedy writing, but enough to bring in new people? Probably not, but I think that's also what the first 2 episodes were there for.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, but if he does bring in new people, brilliant. That's even better. But I think regardless, anyone who watches this, fan or not, is going to have a good time, which is good.
Absolutely. I kind of hope that this new season brings in a lot of new fans. But can you imagine coming to the X-Files for the first time and having to plough through 207 episodes?
Well, yeah.
You and me are fans. I struggled to get through 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, well, yeah. There are certain seasons. I mean, I've been rewatching this with my girlfriend, trying to catch her up, and I've intentionally said, we've been watching season 1, and I've gone, right, skip that one, skip that one, skip that one. But we've just been carrying on watching, and I will go back and watch all of them, obviously, but there's been some I've gone, yeah, you don't need to see Gender Bender. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's things like that.
Yeah. And
you can do that with quite a few seasons. There are certain ones you can skip. There's no way I'm putting her through Teso dos Picos. No chance. I may not even watch that myself again. But yeah, anyway, thank you for coming on for Mulder Scully Meet the Weir Monster, Andrew, and Founders Mutation.
Thank you for having me on. It's been awesome, as always.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll be back to start looking at Home again later in the week. Until then, if you want a bit of a podcast fix, our friend Zach Moore, who's been on the Xcast several times, has just launched his own podcast, which is all about Smallville. And it's called Always Hold On to Smallville. And he's basically doing what we're doing. He's going through all 200 odd episodes of Smallville, which is obviously the Superman series, which ran from like 2001 to about 2011. There's actually more episodes of Smallville than the Xcast, so it's going to take him even longer to do that.
Do you know what he's let himself in for?
I'm not sure. He's asked me this about the Xcast, but I think we're going to suffer together. But you can find Always Hold On to Smallville on Podbean, and also on Facebook. Just type in Always Hold On to Smallville. He's also on Twitter at Always Smallville. So do follow them and give them a bit of support, especially if you're a Smallville fan. For someone like me who's never watched it really, I'm going to be buying it and going through it with him. So it might be a good chance to get into a new show. So do check that out, because Zach's a great guy and it will be a good podcast. So there we go. Okay, we'll be back next time. Until then, remember, trust no one.